Well, my name is Brinsley McNamara, and welcome to the Weird Ireland podcast. Crack agus ceol is a phrase you'll often see adorning Irish bars here and abroad. It's Irish language and translates to crack and music. This catchphrase highlights how important music is to the Irish identity for a lot of folk. However, though not mutually exclusive, wherever there's music, there does be dancing. Dance in Ireland is an equally rich tradition and heritage with differences over place and time. Thing is, I'm still trying to figure out my left foot from my right, so I'm not much of a boogieer. That said, luckily I'm joined today by artist, traditional Irish dancer and instructor Siobhan Butler. How are you doing today, Siobhan?
I'm great. Yeah. Happy to be here.
All right, good stuff. Thanks for having us up here in Manorhamilton.
Yeah. I'm happy to have you guys.
Yeah, nice. Oh yeah, I actually mentioned she doesn't have a microphone, but Sessiongoth, my cousin, is here as well.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Brinsley.
You're the designated driver today.
Indeed, yeah. Sesh taxi.
All right, so Siobhan, how did that intro sound there about music and dance and heritage and that kind of thing related to what you do in Ireland?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of my bread and butter, for lack of a better term. It's the thing that kind of connects all of my interests. But also they're like inherently linked to each other as well. Yeah, I would say like those are probably the two main kind of driving forces for me. Is visual art. I make cyanotypes, which I didn't know how to say that word when I read it. But okay. I do love how do you call that? Antique photography, like the stuff. That stuff's just fascinating. Yeah.
So what is this? How do you say it?
Cyanotype.
Yeah. What exactly is it? Yeah.
It's a photogram.
Uh-huh.
So it's under kind of the category of photography, but it doesn't use a camera.
Oh,
so,
really?
So you treat paper or any sort of substrate, like I have oyster shells here on the table that I did.
The listener's not going to be able to see it, but I'm just going to quickly look at it. Is this cyanotyped?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So you treat whatever substrate that you're working with with these two chemicals. And when you expose it to UV light, then it turns blue.
Okay.
Wow. But you can manipulate it.
We've got
fola.
What's a fola? Fola. She's a dog. What breed is she again?
She's a wire-haired dachshund, and she's very vocal at the moment.
Yeah, she's lovely. She's long, and she reminds me of a ferret, just her kind of shape. Yeah. She really does. She wiggly.
We often call her like an otter or something. Like if you put a picture of her like kind of face on next to an otter, they look like they could be siblings. But
is this like acrylic paint pour kind of on it?
No, so it's a really thin like solution. It's really like water. So I kind of kept it in place using cling film,
right?
Which is how I got this kind of like ripple effect.
So cool.
In what sense is it like photography or like early photography?
I suppose it's photography in the sense that you're using these light sensitive chemicals to create images. And so the word photogram implies that like an object is placed on top of the paper, and that's preventing light from kind of
it's almost
capturing the thing. But whereas like that would happen with a camera. With like traditional photography.
Okay.
So it's considered it's in that family anyway. The first book of photography, quote, was using cyanotypes.
But it's not, how do you put it? It's not reproducing an image like in the sense that a photograph does. Like
it does. It does.
It's like a stamp, nearly.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good way of putting it. So the first book of photography that used cyanotypes was actually like a sort of catalog of British algae and seaweeds. And so the woman, and the cool thing was too, it was a woman who produced it. Anna Atkins was her name. She was able to get like a lot of kind of depth and dimension. So it actually looks like you can really make out kind of the shapes and stuff. Like it's a pretty good catalog.
All right, groovy. And I mean, have you done exhibitions with your cyanotypes?
Not with my cyanotypes, with photography I have. But yeah, I come from a family of photographers, so it's kind of a like everybody has a camera.
Do you come from a family of dancers as well?
Kind of hobbyists.
All right.
But I'm the first quote professional dancer. Yeah, it was totally random how I got into it. I was at home, I think it was 4 or 5, and on PBS, which is the public broadcasting system in the United States, was showing Riverdance, and I just like time stopped. I just couldn't take my eyes off of it. It was like it changed my world. So I knew that that's what I wanted to do. But I was living in Florida at the time, and this was the mid 90s. So there weren't many teachers in the area. So I had to wait a few years before we moved to Southern California.
All right.
Before I started.
And you were able to go to, was it an Irish dance classes, or what type of, see, I'm actually a bit of a Philistine, like I said before there regarding dance. So like, what was the first dance classes you went to? Would it be called Irish dancing or tap dancing? Or Yeah.
Well, before I started Irish dancing, I actually went to tap dance classes because I thought that would maybe like scratch the itch that I had, but it didn't work. So luckily, after a year of tap, I was still kind of poking at my mom, saying like, "Oh, I really want Irish dance. I really want Irish dance." And so she was like, "Okay, fine." After years of this, of kind of hounding her, so I so it was Irish dance classes. It was competitive based, like, you know, super cross legs, high kicks, everything that you see on Riverdance, bar the moving of the arms.
All right.
You have like the wig and everything.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, there were wigs.
Irish dance, like any Irish dancer.
In this like scene of competition based dancing. Yeah. And they were just coming in. So like the first competitions that I did, I actually curled my hair.
All right.
I had to sleep in these ridiculous foam curlers. We called them spikes because you'd wrap your hair around and then they would go through like this hole, and then you'd have these spikes sticking up. So you'd have like a head full of these weird foamy spike things. Really uncomfortable to sleep in, but they did the job anyway.
And the dresses are just amazing. It's like kind of figure skating.
Yeah.
You know, like with the bedazzled outfits for the competition. I always just thought they looked so cool.
They are very cool. The analogy in the States was always toddlers and tiaras. I don't know if you ever saw that. It was like children beauty pageants.
Yeah.
I did come off beauty pageanty as you were describing it to me. Is it kind of like that?
It can be. Yeah. Like when I started, it wasn't so much because it was the late 90s. But as it progressed, it definitely became more kind of, you know, lots of sparkles.
Yeah,
and
lots of blusher.
Yeah.
And did you always stick to Irish dance? Well, you started with tap, then you went to Irish dancing, and if you, during that time when you were learning, to explore any other styles or
kind of bits and pieces. So me getting into dance, like my mom and a lot of my family, they've always loved to dance, but again, they've never really pursued it professionally. So my mom started learning Irish dancing. She joined the adult class, and then she just kind of went crazy for any kind of dance that she could get her hands on, because she's always loved it. But you know, I think it was kind of, I don't know, not allowing her, but like it was okay to pursue all the dance that she wanted to, you know, suddenly. So she signed me up for, I remember I did like Argentine tango. Cool. I did swing dancing a bit, mostly because she just wanted to go and had to tag me along because she was a single mom, and my brother is 7 years older than me. So he could mind himself, but I couldn't mind myself. So yeah, there was a lot of like social dance kind of, but as far as solo dance, it was pretty much only Irish dance until I was 17. And then I moved to Boston. All right. Where I got a scholarship for a year at a studio there. And it was focusing on percussive dances. So it was pretty much all solo percussive dances, but from many different kind of geographic areas and traditions. So the big ones that I focused on were obviously Irish dance, but tap dance and flamenco. And that was such kind of a mind-altering year for me, in a really good way. It kind of like I was kind of understanding the connection between dance and music before, but it was suddenly through trying these different styles of dance that I realized just how closely linked it is. And it's not just an Irish dance, you know, it's like, it's kind of a universal thing. And I mean, I feel weird saying that dance is universal, but I think the idea of moving your body and to a certain extent creating sound and kind of, you know, connecting with other sound makers, whether it's voice or an instrument or your body that's making it, I think that's a pretty natural thing.
I was going to say, because in my introduction, I described you as a dancer and instructor. I don't think I mentioned that you're a dance researcher. You have a master's in, let me get this right, it's not ethnochoreography, it's ethnochoreology.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that it? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
What exactly is ethnochoreology?
A simple way of saying it, it's basically it's basically an anthropology degree, but you're looking at culture and how humans relate to each other through the lens of dance.
Cool.
So it's kind of like, I mean, it's exactly what ethnomusicology is. It's just dance instead of music.
And is there any cultures on Earth that have no indigenous dance of their own? Does that happen?
There are definitely places that have like movement traditions that they don't necessarily call dance. So that's kind of the big reason why I don't like to say that dance is but in general it seems like a lot of places, at least the vast majority. I mean, I don't know everything about every movement style to be found in the world,
but that said, animals dance, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read that actually. You mentioned that bit. Which animals dance, kind of? Do dogs dance?
Probably.
Yes.
Birds, I mean, birds are big dancers, aren't they?
Birds are, yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Like for attracting a mate and things like that.
Yeah.
I love these like dog dance competitions that you see. So I'm like trying to start a routine with Fola, but it's not going so great, but maybe someday soon.
What do they call that again in like Crufts? It's like they do it with the horses at the Olympics.
Yeah.
What's it called again?
I can't remember now, but it's
dressage, isn't that it? Yeah. Dog dressage.
Yeah. It's hilarious. So she can go through my legs and like do like a figure 8 kind of around, but only if I have a treat to kind of lure her. So she's, yeah.
And in your research is mostly vernacular types of dance you look at, and percussive, as you mentioned, when you're studying in Boston. And I did, because I actually live in Seville, so I did see a lot of flamenco there. And I tell you, some places when you see it, when it's done really right, it's almost like it's almost kind of trippy watching them, kind of thing, the way it syncs up with everything. Is it less common for dance styles around the world to be percussive like that? You know, we have the flamenco, there's Irish dancing, and there's I don't know where tap dancing comes from, to be honest, but those three, is it a less common thing around the world having percussive dance?
No. I think it's found all over the place to some extent anyway. Whether you're using your feet or you're, you know, clapping your hands or hitting, you know, we would call that body percussion. Okay. If you're kind of hitting your chest or something. But yeah, there's loads of different types of percussive dance styles found all over the world. Tap would be kind of like an all-American dance form.
Oh, really? That's where it's from?
Yeah, it's a kind of an amazing melting pot style of lots of different influences. But I mean, the big one being, of course, African dance, and like it's huge in the African diaspora.
Really? I didn't know that. Yeah.
So, but a lot of people like to say that, oh, it's just like Irish dance. And Irish dance was probably a contributing kind of element to it, but it can't claim sole kind of influence over this very unique and beautiful style.
Right.
So I can't remember what the other part of the question was.
Just to do with the percussive styles around the world, but seemingly there's plenty.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's a common facet of, well, not just dance / music, because it's making sound. It's a percussion, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm about to reveal how little I know about these things. What exactly is Sean Nós, and how is it different from what we might call traditional Irish dancing?
Yeah. It's a pretty common question, actually.
Is it?
Yeah.
That is the age-old question. That's what they say.
Yeah, exactly. Sean Nós dancing, Sean Nós translates to old style for any non-Irish speakers like me in the room. But as a term, it was kind of only applied to the style fairly recently, like in the last few decades. Prior to that, it would have been kind of given different regional names. So kind of ironically, it was, I think, called battering in Connemara before it was called Sean Nós dancing.
Right.
And I say it ironically because the style of dance that I really wanted to learn was battering, but from West Clare.
All right.
And it's kind of, it's got a different history and connection, but a lot of like Sean Nós opinions say that battering from West Clare isn't considered Sean Nós because of its difference its different historical kind of background. So there's a lot of weird politics and opinions that are kind of tied up with what is Sean Nós dancing.
Right.
But in general, I would say that Sean Nós dancing is an improvised. It's mostly spontaneous. Like it's also very personal. There's a lot of creative expression. You can be an artist. Not that you can't be an artist with Irish step dancing, but I think because when you're taught how to Irish step dance, you're taught steps and you're taught technique and style. Whereas with Sean Nós dancing, it's kind of like, if you're taught it, you're just kind of taught movements, but how your body kind of interprets those movements and how you pick and kind of mix all these elements together, it's up to you. So you could have two people who even learn Sean Nós dancing from the same person, but they look and sound very different to each other, which I think is one of the beautiful things about it. It's not very uniform.
And even in traditional Irish set dancing, is that what you called it?
Step dancing.
Step dancing.
Yeah, sorry. There is set dancing, but that's a different thing.
Is that sort of a country western thing?
No, it's
That's line dancing.
Oh, that's
line dancing.
Okay. What's set dancing?
So set dancing is a group dance. It's historic kind of background is from European court dances, so like quadrilles and mazurkas from the continent that were brought over and then kind of adjusted to suit traditional music. I'm going to pick full up. She wants to get involved. So the thing with sets is it's a group dance. So like there's kind of choreographed routines that we do, but again, like based on the regional kind of dances and styles, you can have different kind of interpretations of how those steps are performed. So like set dance battering from West Clare was this heavily percussive footwork that would have been done within the context of dancing these sets. And it was really only found in this area. Whereas if you went to, say, Westmeath, you know, they could be dancing the same dance, but they wouldn't be dancing it the same way.
Okay.
Is the Siege of Venice, is that one of the kind of dances you'd be talking about there? Is that the one where you go up and under the arms? And
that might be the Waves of Tory.
The Waves of Tory.
Yeah,
because I was on Tory Island last year and there was a load of women doing dance classes and I thought it was called the Siege of Venice. Maybe I just heard of that's from somewhere else, but we were going like under the arms and over the arms. And
Yeah.
it was very fun.
Yeah.
Like, there was like a group of us doing it. I think it's like 4. Yeah, it's groups of 4, but
Yeah,
it's so
yeah.
fun. It was very enjoyable, actually.
Yeah. So I would say that I would categorize that as more Ceilidh dancing.
Ceilidh dancing. That's it.
And there's like a lot of recycling of terms in Irish dance, so it's really confusing.
That's the first time I've heard that expression, Ceilidh dance. I've heard of Ceilidh plenty of times.
Yeah.
That's the first time I've heard that expression.
Well, and the kind of like the really confusing part and the super ironic part of it is that like if you go to a Ceilidh today, you will be dancing probably sets. You won't be dancing Ceilidh dances.
Okay.
So just to make it really accessible there. But the thing with Ceilidh dances is there are some that are kind of old, but a lot of them would have been made or kind of created at the time of the Celtic revival. So at the turn of the 20th century.
Okay. A lot of this is Ceilidh dances, you're saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, and the reason that they were made was because during this Celtic revival, there was this, push for creating this identity of what Irishness is. And in general, people found that set dancing, because its origins were from Europe, not Ireland, that they actually weren't Irish enough. So as a way to kind of recreate what Irish dance is, there was a lot of these Ceilidh dances were choreographed as like these true authentic Irish dances. But they're
not as old as you think they were.
They're not as old, and even stylistically, they're like you generally don't hold each other in ballroom hold, which is generally what you do with set dancing. So you're kind of like in close quarters with each other. Whereas in Ceilidh dancing, it's a little bit more like you might be standing beside somebody or maybe swinging with them, but it's not terribly close. And that's
the Irish people don't really like, we like our space from one another sometimes.
Well, a big part of that was the Catholic Church, really.
All right.
And it really came kind of to a head in 1935 when the Dance Halls Act was enacted. And this kind of destroyed like country dances.
Really? I've never heard of the Dance Halls Act.
Well, house dances anyway.
Okay.
The Dance Halls Act, I think it's still technically like
on the books,
but
right.
It's not really.
What is it? What did the Dance Halls Act do?
So it made any sort of informal dancing or gathering. So like say in somebody's house, say, you're going to your neighbor's house and there was some dancing that was happening, and it might've been a set, but there was probably some drinking. There might've been some music, people having fun, having the crack. And so this Dance Halls Act was basically in direct kind of response to those happenings.
House sessions like that.
Yeah. So what it meant was any sort of dance gathering had to happen in like a designated dance hall. There couldn't be any alcohol, and there had to be a priest present.
I was just going to say the priest had to be watching.
Yep.
Is that kind of like the start of the men on one side of the room and the women on the other side of the room? And
yeah, totally.
Just all cups of tea everywhere.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. It was, I've looked into a lot into the show bands that started in the 50s, 60s, 50s, and that comes from specifically dance hall culture. And I didn't know dance halls basically legally came into, like they had to legally come into existence. And that's what led to all this.
Yeah.
I had no idea that's the precursor. That's the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
Apparently the men, they used to go down to the pub and get absolutely rotten drunk. And they'd all come in, like the women would be waiting for them, and they'd all come in nearly at the end.
Yeah.
And they'd be looking for women then. So I heard. Anyway.
The only way to
get around
guster up enough confidence to ask somebody to dance or something.
There's a lot of stories of, particularly in County Mayo, of dance halls, and the priest is present, but it sounds like legally that had to be the case. And a handsome stranger comes in, and then they look down, and instead of feet, he has hooves, and of course it's the devil. Like there's actually quite a few stories like that.
Yeah. It's super interesting.
It's bizarre, really.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense now when you look at the way that people kind of, at least in Ireland, react to dancing. You know, like you can see how it's led to this, you know, idea of like you either have to be proficient, which is not only just because of the Dance Halls Act, but like it is kind of like a sexualized thing, which when you were dancing in a house dance, like that was a way of meeting and flirting with somebody, but it doesn't have to be like, oh, if you're dancing with this person, then that means you're going to court and potentially get married or anything like that, you know? Whereas at the dance halls, like that was really the only way to, you know,
to mingle with other people.
Meet
a husband or wife.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it kind of sexualized it a little bit.
It wouldn't be like Devil Airs Ireland to do that.
And so do you think that's still on the books, though, technically?
I think technically it is, yeah.
I've got to look that up. That's fascinating.
In New York, there's also there's a similar law called the cabaret license, and it bans technically dancing in any bar without a cabaret license. And it was in direct response to Black people like swing dancing back in, you know, the 40s and 50s. And so they made this law to basically stop people from dancing. And it's still technically a thing. So, but I broke it many times because most of the Irish bars that I danced in New York didn't have a cabaret license. So it's not really enforced anymore, but it's still technically on the books.
Your dog's worn herself out there. She's gone to sleep in your arms now. Yeah, she's lovely. So you have an online dance school, put it that way. Bonog?
Yeah.
Bonog dance. Bonog Irish dance, is that the right moniker for it?
Yeah.
What styles do you teach there? Do you instruct there or give resources on?
So it's mostly Sessiongoth dancing.
Okay.
There are a few kind of like old style step dances. So again, just to reiterate this recycling of terms, old style Irish step dancing, I would say anyway, it's not competitive based, but it's kind of like the precursor of what eventually became the competitive based dancing. So stylistically, it's taught as steps. There is a certain level of technique implied, but there's still like some kind of, you know, personal expression. Like it's not totally rigid.
Because like channel singing, I did a bit of channel singing there with Kyotis, and that's all about like get the emotion, like the performance. And it's not as such like, there's not really a way to teach it, but it's kind of, you really need to feel the song, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. So with old style step dancing, there was still like that kind of freedom to make it your own a little bit. So there's some like, again, sorry, set dances. But these are solo set dances. So these are dances. This is the only time that you see dances in the traditional music kind of repertoire. Specific dances choreographed for specific tunes. And these tunes are also the only tunes that are like crooked. That's an American term that we would use. So
what does that mean?
Like traditional Irish music is generally pretty straight in that each section of the music is going to be 8 bars long. Right. So it's fairly linear and understandable.
Yeah.
But with these set dances, you could have the first part. The first part could be 8 bars, but then the second part could be like 20 bars. So it's kind of like they're lopsided. It's not totally even. And so because of that, you have to have kind of, I mean, you could potentially improvise some kind of dance onto these tunes, but again, because they're kind of funny, that's why these specific dances were kind of created for them.
Right. Okay.
So to follow the structure.
What's any very, I know, it's not that we're going to go into much because we're not in a visual format, but what is some signature moves of Shando's?
Oh gosh.
I know. Or is there names from that can be? Because
the thing is too, like if we're talking about like opinions of Shando's dancing, like there are plenty of people who have the opinion that it can't be taught.
All right.
Or that it shouldn't be taught really. Which is something that I kind of half agree with and half don't. Mostly because that was my experience. Like I did have teachers, but I also picked it up just from watching people. So I feel like it's good to have a balance for sure. But because it's not like formally taught, there isn't like a formal way of teaching it. As far as like terminology goes, it's not set at all. Like some people can have terms for things and some people can use the same word but refer to something else.
Okay.
And, like for instance, a shuffle, like in my mind, a shuffle is something very specific. And then to somebody else, a shuffle could be something else.
Right. So there'd be, okay, this is interesting going into it like this too, because I didn't know it was like this at all or anything. So how did you learn Sessiongoth? It was in Boston, you were saying?
Yeah, that's where I started. There was a woman there, she's still there. Kieran Jordan is her name. And she introduced me to Sessiongoth dancing. So this was after 10 years of competitive Irish step dancing. I just kind of was tired of competition and needed some other kind of outlet. So I connected with Kieran and she started introducing me to Sessiongoth dancing, which she had learned because she did a master's also at the University of Limerick, not the same master's as me, but she spent a year in Limerick and then she was kind of picking bits up from people. And then, of course, kind of traveling back and forth. She married an Irish guy as well, so she was back and forth pretty regularly.
Okay.
But anyway, she started kind of teaching me some of the basics and kind of showing me different avenues to consider and pursue. And then from there, I just honestly, apart from Kieran, the biggest teacher that I had was YouTube.
Really?
Yeah.
University of YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh, no way. For Sessiongoth, like?
Yeah.
Class.
Yeah.
Jeez, you can learn anything on there.
Seriously. Yeah. I love hearing people say like, oh yeah, I learned how to refinish my sideboard or something on YouTube. And it's like, yeah, I learned how to Sessiongoth dance on YouTube.
Who are the channels on YouTube for learning Sessiongoth or learning?
Honestly, I just started typing in Sessiongoth dancing and then I watched literally every video that there probably is on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I mean, from that, you can start to see that like there are certain people that have more than a couple of videos. So like maybe they're a little bit more prominent and yeah. So I just started kind of picking, watching these over and over and over again, which is a great learning kind of technique, because you can start to see what they're doing, but then also hearing what they're doing and then trying to recreate it.
Is it kind of like, I heard like with certain old Irish musical instruments, like the uilleann pipes and stuff, if you trace it back, there's like several teachers that go back through time, and like it would be kind of sort of similar that if you trace it back, certain steps maybe were from a similar teacher or whatever. Yeah, if that makes sense.
yeah, definitely. I think it's harder to do that with Sessiongoth dancing because it's, especially now, like it's kind of become like maybe like globalized to a certain extent. Like somebody like me, for instance, like I feel like I'm a pretty good example of this. Like I'm not from Ireland. I am heavily influenced by people from Ireland, but I also studied all these different percussive dance forms. So I'm going to have different things that are brought in, whether intentionally or not, like even if my intention is to be as quote unquote authentic as possible, I hate that word, but, if I want to be as precise to a certain person or a certain area, like it's not going to happen. Even if I technically can do it, it's like, because I'm pulling all these different influences, like my perspective is going to be bigger than that. Okay. So
how about because you're already doing Irish step dancing, right?
Yeah.
For 10 years before that. Does that influence how you Sessiongoth dance, or does it make it
100%.
Easier to get into it? Really?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, definitely. Like watching, somebody posted a video actually, cause I'm teaching in France this summer. So they're advertising the festival that I'm teaching at, and they found this video of me, and it's only from 2013, but it was still like early on in my Shannos dance kind of practice. And my dancing, like I watched it for the crack, and my dancing in this video compared to my dancing now is like completely different. I'm a lot higher on my toes. My feet are a lot more turned out. I'm not really using my heels very much. Yeah, it's very different.
It's more like the Irish step dancing.
Yeah. Like you can see that I'm closer to that kind of time period of my life than I am now.
And when you're going back into like, when you were learning and you're looking up YouTube, and I imagine it's more recent dancers are putting up videos. Is there any, let's say, would you ever look at footage from like the 1950s or 60s or old stuff where people are performing shandos and use that to learn or be influenced? Is there a lot of that out there?
There's not a lot of it, but any old thing that I can find for sure. There's, I think one of the oldest clips that exists, and I'm probably totally off with the date. It might be from the 30s, maybe, because I like the sound quality is really, really bad. So it's like early on in sound video recording. And it's I think he was blind, maybe, this guy on one of the Aran Islands is dancing a few steps, and it's, you know, it's kind of typical, you know, ye old Irish dance kind of thing. But I love watching stuff like that, because it's like, this is, I mean, for somebody like me anyway, it's the only kind of connection that I have to something like that, because I don't speak Irish. I don't have any connections to the Aran Islands or anything like that, you know. Yeah. So having footage like that, that's.
Well, we didn't want to use the word authentic earlier, but but it feels like the word forced in a way.
Yeah, definitely. It's I was recently in Jackson, Mississippi, and I went to the art museum there, and they had a quote of Stuart Hall, who is an anthropologist, English, and the quote was something along the lines of, I'm sorry, I can't remember it exactly, but it was something like, if you think of culture as a return to roots, like ROOTS, then you're missing the point. It should be a return to roots. So ROUTS to TES, sorry. Yes. You know, basically acknowledging that culture is always changing and it's always adapting, and it's not something that's stuck in a specific time period. So that's kind of why I struggle with the word authentic, because I'm like, well, what does, like, how, like, that is authentic, but that doesn't mean that, say, what I do isn't authentic then. You know, it's I don't know. I don't like to say that something from a certain area or a certain time period is the only authentic thing from whatever.
Yeah, because it's changing, like, relative to what you're feeling right now, to what the times are right now.
Yeah. Oh. And I like, that's kind of why I like to use the term vernacular, because I think, like, vernacular, it's basically you're creating something with whatever material or influence that you have at any given moment. So, I mean, in today's moment, it is fairly globalized. You know, we have access to communicating and sharing things with people all over the world. So it's, it mightn't be the same as it was 100 years ago when before that was a thing, but does that mean that it's any less valuable? You know?
That is the age-old question.
Yeah.
No, but I totally get you. I mean, you're saying it's become more globalized. Can you find vernacular Shando styles and all throughout the world with it?
Yeah, really? Like there's a woman in Taiwan who's teaching Shannos dancing.
Oh, wow.
There's Japanese people dancing Shannos. I mean, set dancing has been a big thing in Japan for a while.
Really?
Yeah.
And is set dancing, pardon me, That's different from step dancing, isn't it?
Yeah. So set dancing is the group dances.
Okay, the group dances. Are those rigid in their styles, or do they can they variate around the world?
So again, you have people who are like very kind of like, oh, we only dance, dances from Clare, say. Like that's a big one. Clare is a big set dancing county. But there are definitely there are a lot of opinions, but the thing with set dancing now is because it's shifted a lot from the time of the house dances, because when you were at a house dance, you might only dance one or two dances. Like there were only a couple of dances that were kind of popular in these rather isolated areas. But as a result of being able to travel and communicate with each other, people have discovered more dances, which is great. But the big thing is now a good set dancer, and I'm doing air quotes here again, is somebody who knows a lot of dances, as opposed to, sorry, this is going to sound really, really opinionated, but as opposed to somebody who can dance a few dances really well. So it's more about knowing repertoire as opposed to technique or style. So it's basically done like a 180 on itself. Whereas before, because the repertoire would have been rather limited, style would have been, a big thing. That would have even been like a compliment. Like I've heard people say, that's something that you would say to a dancer, like, oh, check out the style on him, or something, like he's got style, whereas now it's like, if you go to a ceilidh, there might be a list of dances, and then you kind of gravitate yourself towards the people who are like, oh yeah, I know this dance, or I know that dance, or blah, 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 blah. And they might be okay dancers, but, as far as like the style goes, they mightn't have it, but they know the repertoire.
Okay.
So it's the emphasis of what is important has shifted over time.
It took me a while to actually get exactly what you meant there.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
No, not at all. Trust me, I got it now. Yeah. But it's just like, I'm really not much of a dancer, like I said.
That's okay. And unfortunately too, I feel like anytime I've talked about this, it's been like, I don't get the opportunity to talk about this with people who don't know about it.
Yeah.
So it's great. But sorry.
It's kind of like someone that has maybe the innate ability to be able to get into the groove of it and feel the way through that, rather than someone that's practiced and learned lots of different moves or repertoire. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Well, the repertoire being like the structure of the dances. So like, oh, this one starts with an advance and retire, or this one starts with a lead around or something, as opposed to being able to do those movements with a bit of flair and something.
Panache.
Yeah. So
in Ireland or even abroad, is there one particular big Shandos dance event that I'm gonna guess Flacchiol na Héireann, but or is there something else?
It is something else, yeah.
Really?
It's, Oireachtas na Saona is it's an Irish language festival, and it's been going, I think, since the turn of the 20th century. Really? The festival, anyway. But the dance competition is, I think, as old as maybe the 70s or 80s, and it's televised live.
Really?
And it replays on Christmas Day every year.
So where and when is this?
You should check this out.
I will, absolutely.
It's a crazy kind of thing. The whole event is really fascinating, but it's generally in Killarney, and it happens around Halloween. So I think it's the weekend after Halloween, or like the week, depending on when Halloween happens or occurs. It's the end of October to the beginning of November. But I hope you're not catching this. She's just licking her paw.
I know, we're looking at the dog. She's an angel.
But it's a really interesting event because it attracts a lot of Shandos dancers from all over the place. Like I went, I think 3 times. And that was the main reason that I went, was because the thing with Sean-Nós dancing, because of the solo form, it can feel kind of isolating. And especially coming from the United States, like I had Kieran and a couple of her other students to kind of bounce ideas off of, but that was it. You know, this like idea of creating a community of Sean-Nós dancers, it's kind of difficult.
Right.
So I went to this festival because I knew that there would be a lot of Sean-Nós dancers all in one place. And it definitely provided the good parts of that. It is a competition, so it feels a little bit funny because it feels almost like you're stepping towards like an Irish step dance competition kind of vibes. But if you go into it just kind of having the crack, like I'm just going to hang out with some friends and, you know, dance a couple steps, and then I think you're doing it right. If you go into it as like, I'm going to win this year, you know, then it's maybe not so great. But yeah, it's a 2-day dance competition. So the first day is the first round. And for the adults anyway, which is the only competition that I've competed in, I think the top 20 go through to the final round, which is the one that's televised. And it's like this big, like it's at the INEC in Killarney.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like this big hall with like stadium seating, and then they have like, you know, these TVs on cranes and stuff, and this massive TV screen behind you so that you can see close-ups of the feet and stuff, and it's pretty funny. But yeah, it's I would say that's probably the biggest dance kind of thing. Ironically, it's not so big at the Flaw.
Really?
Like there is a dance competition, but I don't think it's been going for very long. Maybe like 10 years or something.
Right.
I mean, given the history of what the Flaw is, the Sean-Nós dance competition, I think is relatively new.
Oh, that's amazing.
And yeah, and not too many people are, I think, like pushed to participate. Like the Oireachtas would definitely be the bigger thing to. The
Oireachtas, what's the exact name of it again?
Well, Oireachtas na Saona is the festival, but I think it's just the Stepio.
Yeah, Cultus do in Mullingar do Sean-Nós dancing as well. So actually, our cousin is doing it there, but like that, I don't think there'd be too many doing it.
Really?
Yeah.
Like I remember when I was doing the Sean-Nós singing, they were saying because not so many people do it at all. It's actually quite easy to qualify. Because to be honest, very few people will just participate. So you could get to the finals in the Flaw very easily.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Huh. I think that was definitely the case with Sean-Nós dancing up until maybe recently. Like I think it is growing. Like I adjudicated the Leitrim Flaw.
Really?
A couple years ago.
Was it in Manorhamilton here?
It was in Glenfarne.
Okay.
In
the Rainbow Ballroom of Romance.
Yeah. Talking about dance halls. Which was hilarious. Do you know, have you been to that?
I've been to the Rainbow Ballroom of Romance.
Have you tried like jumping up and down or dancing on it?
Oh, the actual floor of it?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I'll fill you in, Sesh. The Rainbow Ballroom of Romance it's a bizarre sounding name. It's a dance hall in a village called Glenfarne, very close to here in Manorhamilton.
What's the deal with the floor?
Now I did see it. It's a very old dance hall. It is still used, not as often as back in the day.
Yeah.
The reason I was there is because it has a very small show bands museum, like Joe Dolan's tie and stuff like that is in there.
Yeah.
But the floor itself, was it extended at one point, or what's the story?
Well, so I've only heard tale of this. And after adjudicating, I'm like, this has to be true. Apparently, this floor was built on tires. So so it's like extra sprung.
Yeah.
Essentially, and so as a way to kind of make
a shock absorber almost.
Yeah, exactly. Which is ideal for a dance floor. But it was kind of comedic when I was adjudicating this competition because there is like a stage, at one end of the room, but I didn't want the competitors to be on the stage because I thought it might be like a little intimidating. I was like, oh, let's just have everybody on the floor. It'll be fine. You know, I'll sit behind a desk off to the side. We'll have the music over to one side, and then the dancers can dance wherever they feel comfortable. And as soon as the dancers started dancing, because they were on the same floor as the musicians, there's basically like this wave that was created. So it was throwing the musicians off because they would be like half a second off of where the dancer was. But it was literally like this wave that was happening over the floor. And so like I'm trying to write notes on this desk as they're dancing, and my pen is literally like bouncing off of the desk. So it was pretty funny. Like I feel for anybody who actually read my notes because they probably were just like random scribbles. But yeah, apparently it's tires.
Cool. I didn't know that. It is. Yeah. It had been renovated over time, and I can't remember what it is. You can see where it's happened. So yeah, maybe they stuck some tires underneath there or something like that.
That sounds pretty fun to me.
Yeah. It's a great name, the Rainbow Ballroom of Romance. I wanted to ask actually really quick about the event in Killarney. When you're there for the 2 days, is it like a flan, the sense that there's stuff going on in the streets, or would you know it's even going on unless you went to that INAC?
Yeah, it's all pretty much in the INAC. Like there would be kind of like sessions, and there's a lot of like Radio Nagueltukta is there.
Is it like, TG Gahar that's televising it?
Yeah, okay, yeah. So there's lots of like interviews happening, and kind of like I think it's like what would be the analogy? Another type of, I mean, it would be like The Fly, I guess. Like we're at The Fly now. It's like an all day kind of broadcasting, like live streaming of whatever is happening. So like they have these different kind of like stages, television stages kind of set up. So they'll have different people come in, play a few tunes, maybe sing some songs, dance a few steps. But it's all definitely geared around the Irish language. Like everything is 100% in Irish.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And it's very specifically Shannos dancing or forms of Irish dancing?
It's only Shannos dancing.
Only Shannos dancing. Yeah. Okay.
That's the competition anyway.
Right.
I mean, like if you have people there, you know, performing as part of whatever TG Gahar special broadcasting, you know, like I've seen people dance sets. I've maybe seen somebody do like some step dancing, but for the most part, it's definitely Shannos kind of geared.
Yeah. That's cool. Is it worth me checking out, or would I have any idea what's going on?
I mean, do you speak Irish?
Not that well. No.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like.
She's trying to speak Irish.
Yeah. That's the neighbor. Okay, I'm going to close the blinds.
Sure.
So she can't see.
I mean, I wanted to ask you more about your research. There was one particular, I'm not sure if you did it for your master's or if it was something you did additionally, but there was one where you were documenting names of dancers because was it the case something like a lot of them were documented as being musicians, but not necessarily as dancers, and there was less focus put on the record of that. Am I recounting this right?
Yeah. That was kind of my most recent project, and it's an ongoing one. It's something that like I'll dip into here, and then we'll leave it for a little while and then come back to it. So I'll probably be doing it for ages, but it's all kind of part of this very, very long-term goal of mine to create a dance archive. And trying to like the whole thing with Bonog, my online website, is I'm pushing for accessibility in Irish dance and Shannos dancing. Basically trying to say that, like, explain that this is a thing that goes well beyond just what river dance is, you know? and make it so that if somebody's living in the Philippines or wherever, you know, they can log in and they can have access to some kind of learning material or some kind of resource list or something like that. So the push with this research was to try to make it accessible, like add to that accessibility, but also there's this funny kind of divide that's kind of currently happening. And one could even argue that it's a result of like the Dance Halls Act and the Gaelic League kind of politicizing Irish dance, where dance and music are now separate, whereas back, you know, they would have been kind of more unified. And so that's why I think it's really important to acknowledge these traditional musicians who are remembered as being traditional musicians, but who also danced, and just kind of pointing out like, oh, they were amazing musicians, but they also danced. You know, like James Morrison was a really big one. He actually lived here in Manorhamilton for a while. He was given a post here by the Gaelic League to teach dance, but he's only remembered as a fiddle player. Right. And he was an amazing fiddle player, but like, given that he was given a position to teach dance, like he must have been an amazing dancer as well. And there's very little, I mean, there, as far as I know anyway, there's no record of him dancing, like as far as video or even audio recordings. There are some audio recordings of dance, which is kind of part of this project. But yeah, I don't think he's on any of them. But the whole point of it is just to say, like, you know, just because somebody was an amazing musician, like, I don't know, trying to legitimize, I guess, dance a little bit more. Because a lot of people, even in the traditional music scene, like, and I'll admit too, like, if somebody asks me if I play anything, I'll say like, no, I just dance. Yeah. You know, and I'm kind of...
You shouldn't say you just...
I know, yeah. Like, I'm kind of talking myself down a little bit. Whereas like dance is just as valuable as... You know, I mean, like Dom plays the bowron.
He does, yeah.
and bowron has like a lot of negative connotation for sure.
Why?
Well, like, I mean, there are a lot of really bad bowron players.
Is there?
Dom is not one of them, but yeah, like if you see somebody walk into a session with a bowron and you don't know who they are, you're like, oh no.
Is it because they feel like anybody is like can pick it up and play it, and they can't really?
Yeah, exactly. So, but still, like, I feel like the bowron is more widely kind of accepted, even more than dance. And there's even a lot of stuff tied up with the bowron as well.
like the spoons.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is interesting because like dance is very accessible. Like anybody can, I always say, like, if you can walk, then you can dance because you don't need any special equipment. You know, you don't need a lot of money. Like a decent pair of shoes will do you right. But yeah, it's I don't know where I'm going with this.
Who would you say is like, you were talking about the archives, who would you say is like the GOAT of Irish traditional or sean-nós dancing?
Oh gosh. I mean, for me, like I wrote my dissertation, my master's dissertation on Willie Keane, and I would say he's one of the GOATs anyway. Yeah, for sure. He died before I even started dancing, so I never met him. But
where was he from?
He was from Clare.
Are they all from Clare? Or?
I mean, a lot of the people that I look at are from Clare. That's why I moved there. That's why I wanted to study. But no, he was from Mullack in County Clare, which is fairly like small, but still like there a lot of great dancers and musicians were from that area. So sorry, I have to totally correct myself there. He wasn't from Mullack. He was from Doonbeg. I don't know what I'm thinking. He was part of Clare? It's still in Clare, but it's a very different part. Not as many kind of great musicians and dancers were from Doonbeg. But Mullack was the set dancing group that he was a part of, the Mullack set dancers. And they were big competitors. They won all of the awards. They performed in the United States, part of the bicentenary celebration. So 1976.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
In DC, there's this, what is it? it's the mall, something the mall, but
National Mall?
Maybe, probably.
I think it is.
And it's where all the Smithsonian museums are. It's this big kind of park. But basically, the Smithsonian, there's an annual festival that happens every year. So for this bicentenary, they wanted to have kind of representatives from different countries. And so they managed to pull some musicians and dancers from Clare to come over and perform.
Willie Keane was one of them.
Willie Keane was one of them.
Yeah. Groovy.
Yeah.
When you're doing your research like this kind of stuff, what resources do you use? And do you ever use the Irish Folklore Collection? Is that something you use?
I don't use it very often because there actually isn't very much about dance about it.
Really?
On it. Yeah. But I mean, depending on what it is that I'm looking at, the Irish Traditional Music Archives in Dublin is a really great resource. If it's music based anyway. So like my recent research looking at musicians who also dance, there's like there could be a whole book about somebody and then like on a random page they'll be like, oh yeah, and then they danced a few steps as well. It's like but
that must be very frustrating.
It's so frustrating, yeah. And I would say like that's in general that's like a pretty common thing that happens with dance because it's like this field of ethnochoreology is fairly new in that like since the turn of the 20th century, basically it became like a thing. And it's still kind of becoming accepted. So because of that, like it's kind of difficult to describe dance through writing. And even video isn't ideal.
Really?
I mean, because like depending on position, you know, like if you're focusing like for Irish dance, for instance, like most of the emphasis is on the feet. So a video camera might only be focusing on the feet, which is hugely important, but then also you're missing out like how the person is carrying themselves and what their facial expressions are. And, you know, like while it mightn't inform so much about the dance itself, it would inform you a lot about the person that's dancing it, you know? So it's difficult to find one way of kind of, documenting dance. So, and because of that, when you're doing research, finding resources, it needs to be kind of a multi-layered approach, I think. There will probably be something written, perhaps. The catalog of past dissertations at the University of Limerick is great.
Really?
Because ethnochoreology there anyway has been around for a little while. Thanks to my now retired supervisor, Catherine Foley, shout out. Dr. Catherine Foley, I should say.
Shout out to Dr. Foley.
Yeah. She's like single-handedly basically responsible for a lot of the great dissertations that are archived there. There's the National Dance Archive, which is also Catherine Foley's thing. It's been kind of slowly cataloged. It's still being cataloged, and that's not only traditional dance that's there. It's any dance that's in Ireland, but there are a lot of great resources there. And then honestly, just talking to people. Really? Like, yeah. When I was doing my research for my dissertation, it was a struggle because like Willie Keane was fairly well known. So like there's actually a decent amount of video footage of him dancing, which is great. But because he was dead, like I couldn't just like, you know, give him a ring and be like, hey, can we meet for coffee? So it meant, you know, reaching out to family members, to friends, to anybody who knew him, and just kind of getting a sense of what his approach to dancing was. And yeah.
All right, cool. No, it's nice to be able to do that kind of like groundwork research like that, I think.
Yeah. It was really fun. Yeah. I mean, I joke that like I could have been a little bit more rigorous in my studies, because I feel like when I came to to Ireland to do my master's. Really, I was just looking for an excuse to go to like music and dance festivals.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of just like mingling and dancing and having chats. So definitely heavy on the kind of personal research as opposed to the reading research, but yeah,
research nonetheless.
Research nonetheless. Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to ask you at some point some kind of fun questions about there's a bunch of different names of dancing. I don't really know what they mean. Let's just jump straight into that. What's jiving?
So jiving is it's done to like country western music, but like Irish country music, not.
So they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't jive in America.
Only like Irish American communities have I seen it.
Jiving is the one where it's like, and they do go under the arms.
Yeah.
With your partner.
Oh, that's like is that like not like nearly the most common one in Ireland? Would it be right?
Yeah, yeah. It's hugely popular. Yeah.
You'd know a jive if you saw it.
Yeah. Well, what's line dancing then? Is that different to a jive?
Yeah. So line dancing would be like it's not so much a couple dance. Like you're positioned basically in a line, everybody facing the same way, and then you're doing like some basic footwork, and it's very repetitive. So like I mean, line dancing for me has kind of two connotations because I grew up in the United States, and one is like I envision like I did line dancing in Nashville when I was
it's a country western thing again.
Yeah, well like that's definitely an element, but then I also think of like the electric slide as being a line dance.
Is that a dance or is that a song?
It's both.
Okay.
it's classic, but I think it's like it's kind of like a subgenre of like hip hop kind of, or like that's probably embarrassing that I said that, but but it's a mostly like black kind of, like
line dancing is.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
well this kind of subgenre
electric swing.
Electric slide.
Yeah. Would that be like the cha-cha slide?
Kind of. Yeah. Like, yeah. When I was in school, it's like, yeah. But it's like, it's that same kind of thing. Like you have like a set kind of choreography for the song and that's what you're performing. I mean, I think country line dancing it's not like you can dance any sort of routine to any song. Like as far as I know, I don't want to make sweeping claims here about line dancing, but as far as I know, I think it's a little bit more flexible.
Okay.
Whereas I think, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think
this other stuff might be more specific to specific songs.
It's all country westerny type stuff, but it's common in the America and Ireland line dancing, is it, or is it the same thing between the two?
I think they're fairly similar. I want to say, between America and Ireland. Anyway.
What's a square dance?
So square dancing and set dancing have the same origins.
Okay.
But square dancing is basically American and set dancing is Irish.
Okay.
But they would have both been influenced from the same kind of European quadrille dances. Like groups of 8 dance in a square.
Okay.
But I mean, square dancing now there's a different level of like it's evolved in a different way than set dancing. Like a lot of the movements can be very similar, but square dance calling for one is a big tradition that exists in the States and it doesn't exist here.
Okay.
Which is kind of something that I think would be really fun to explore.
What is it? What does that mean?
It's like
call for one.
Oh, I mean, I couldn't do it, but
no, is that what it's called? Square dancing, call for one.
Calling.
Okay.
Yeah. So that like a caller would be on stage, say, and they would be in front of a mic, and they'd be like, sorry, this is so bad, but they might be like, it's almost like they're singing.
Okay.
The calling.
Yeah.
So they might be and a do si do and a 1 2 3 and and they're like they're almost like it's not like and do si do and now swing your partner. It's like they're
like Cotton Eye Joe.
Kind of, yeah.
I'm giving all the old dance song references.
Yeah. So it's very I don't know, unique and personal as well. So like how people kind of choose to interpret these dances is up to them. But I think also they can create dances. Mm-hmm. And and they can do it like through this calling. So I have a good friend who's very heavily kind of involved in that world. She's amazing. Becky Hill. Shout out to Becky Hill.
And Becky Hill a singer or a rapper?
I think there is a famous Becky Hill, but she's famous for another reason.
Okay,
but no, the Becky Hill that I know is she's a great percussive American dancer.
Okay.
And square dance caller.
And that's not a thing that happens in Ireland, square dance calling?
No.
Do you think it'll go down well?
I don't know, actually. Yeah. I think it would be interesting because like a big reason that people don't think that set dancing is very accessible is because the dances generally aren't called. And so they think that they need to know these, rather intricate figures in order to dance them, which is, I mean, I would say it's only like a quarter true. Like you could find yourself in something and just kind of be dragged along. And if you're a fairly fast learner, like you'll pick it up, no problem, kind of thing. Or you can just go to a class or two and then get the basics, and then you can definitely join in at a Kaylee. But a lot of people don't realize that. Whereas if you're calling the dances, they're like, oh yeah, it's fine. I don't have to know what I'm doing because they're just going to tell me, So I think it would be really interesting to try it here anyway.
I'd love to see one at the least. I mean, there is country western. It's a country western thing kind of, is it?
It's done square dancing. It's more to old time music. So it's basically like old time is from Appalachia.
Okay. Okay.
So it's like there's a lot of Irish and Scottish and English influence into these tunes. So I mean, they would play tunes that like the Virginia Reel for one. That's in both repertoires in Irish and old time.
Okay. So old timey music is actual genre name.
Old time. Yeah.
Old time. Okay. Old timey.
Yeah. Old timey. I think it has a negative connotation.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so, I didn't know. I think I've just seen it in like Looney Tunes and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, because it doesn't necessarily represent a specific time period.
All right.
Like old timey is like, old fashioned.
Yeah.
Whereas old time, it's just like it's still alive and well.
Is how Irish step dancing, how it's competed in and how it's practiced in the USA different how it is in Ireland?
That's a good question because I've never competed in Ireland.
Really?
At least with step dancing. I don't think it's that different. Like from what I understand anyway, like if you're really heavily involved, then like you're going to the dance studio 3 to 5 times a week, and you're training, and it's pretty rigorous. And then you put on the dress and the curls and maybe even a spray tan, and you're going off. I remember so I finished competing in 2009, and towards the end of that period, I remember hearing a lot of Irish and even English people say that it was America's fault that it had become like so glamorous.
All right.
So they were totally pointing the fingers, and I'm like, but you guys are participating just as much. Like, even if it is America that's leading, like you're just following suit. So, so no, I think it's pretty similar. Like, so there's different organizations that exist. So the biggest one is On Commission.
This is in the USA, is it?
It's international. Okay. So On Commission all the organizations started, well, almost all the original ones started in Ireland. And On Commission is definitely the biggest one. So that was the one that I competed with. And it's found all over the world. There's also Kogel, which is the second biggest, based in Ireland. It's not as big in the United States. There's also festival dancing, which is only found really in the north. It's a very different style of Irish dance.
Really? It's not like Kaylee dancing, no?
No, it's it was kind of created to a certain extent by this woman. Oh gosh, what's her name? it's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway,
if you think of it, you can say it and then I can edit it back.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Thanks. Patricia Mulholland, that's her name.
Uh-huh.
She was a ballet dancer, or she had like a background in theater, and ballet, and so she wanted to kind of separate herself from these other organizations because I think she saw where they were going. And she kind of created this, or it wasn't just her, but she was definitely a driving force. Like there was a whole committee. So the music is much more kind of classical almost. Like it's like a weird kind of mix between classical and traditional music. And then the dancing has a lot of the same types of movements, but it's like the big ones, or the kind of like stylized dances are slip jigs, which are very slow and they don't hop nearly as much. And there's like a lot of these like leg extensions and, but the big difference between festival dancing and say on commission is that festival really promotes like connection with the audience.
Okay. So
like there's like this won't make so much sense to people listening, but, on commission dancing, you know, like you're kind of moving your torso, like your head is almost like moving with your torso at the same time. So like if I'm looking to the left, then all of me is looking to the left. If I'm looking to the right, all of me is looking to the right. Whereas with festival dancing, you might be turned towards the right, but your head could be
performing to the crowd.
So you're really performing to the crowd.
Oh, cool.
And you're kind of like, you're being a little bit more engaging, you know? So like there's this big, like it's a performance. It's not a sport so much, even though it could be like any festival dancer. I mean, and I would say that it's definitely athletic and it requires a lot of skill and a lot of practice. So it's not a sport, but you know, it's inching more towards the art spectrum, whereas on commission is like very much a sport now.
Right. And so these are like in each one of these organizations have their own different style within it, or is that the whole?
Kind of.
Somewhat, yeah.
I mean, like festival
dancing is very different.
That's that's kind of the odd one in the bunch. But the other organizations like they would be slightly different, but I feel like all of them are kind of pushing towards what on commission is, which is like this really showy, intense, I don't know, flashy kind of craziness. Yeah.
Do you have any favorite dance movies?
Yeah.
What? Oh, tell me what. Tell me which. I've seen Dirty Dancing, and that might be the only one I've seen that's strictly a dancing movie.
Okay.
Step Up to the Streets.
I've never seen any of the Step Up movies.
So one of my favorite films as a child was Strictly Ballroom, which was Baz Luhrmann's first film. Baz Luhrmann did like
Moulin Rouge and Batman Forever, I think. And
did he?
Baz Luhrmann?
Did he do Batman Forever? Oh, he might. Did he do that?
He did.
The one with
Great
Nicole
Gatsby.
Kidman.
He did Elvis one, and
But it was his first films, and he grew up as a competitive ballroom dancer. Oh, right. So it's like semi-autobiographical.
Cool.
But it's hilarious because it's filmed and takes place in the 80s in Australia. But the flashiness of the costumes and like the drama and the weird politics, like it's very similar to what my experience in competitive Irish dancing was. So yeah, I love that film.
Siobhan, can you do the Thriller? Not right now, but can you do the Thriller dance? Have you ever done it?
I can do parts of it. Like I wouldn't know it.
Is it hard?
Inside and out. I don't think it's that hard.
No.
Can
you crank that Soldier Boy?
Oh yeah.
Really? Yeah.
For sure.
Is that hard?
No.
I guess that's why it's popular.
I haven't done it since I was in school, but yeah.
What other ones was there like that around?
The Macarena, you got that one?
Yeah,
that was a little bit of an older one. Was there even a dance to that? Oh, there was.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
I don't distinctly remember, to be honest.
We said the cha-cha slide. That was another one.
I'm trying to think.
I can't remember. It feels like another lifetime ago that I was in school.
Yeah.
Even though it really wasn't that long ago.
Is because we didn't have none of us had TikTok in school. Has TikTok changed the world of Irish dancing or sean-nós much at all?
Oh yeah.
Oh really?
Sure. Well, Irish dancing anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know about TikTok. I don't know if sean-nós ever caught on to TikTok. But yeah, there was there are actually a couple of dancers who like made waves as a result of their TikTok channels.
Mm-hmm.
There's this woman, Morgan Bullock, I think is her name.
Mm-hmm.
She's Black. She's from the States.
Mm-hmm.
She was doing some Irish dancing to Beyonce. And
wow.
Like suddenly people were like, oh my God. I mean, she's a great dancer anyway, but like suddenly people were like, oh my God, like a Black woman dancing Irish dance. This is mind blowing. And it's like, yeah, there's actually a lot of them that do it. And a lot of them are really good at it. But yeah, she's touring with Riverdance now, I think.
Cool.
So yeah, it totally changed the world.
Right. So that's the ability of TikTok and or any kind of social media being able to affect dance with that. Well, I mean, that could happen to sean-nós yet if it's not already happened.
Yeah, you never know.
Can you do that? I have no idea what it's called, but can you do that kind of Russian dance where they kick their legs out and squat?
Oh gosh.
Have
No.
you ever tried?
I have tried, yeah.
I tried before. I knew a guy who somehow, I don't know, he was from Yorkshire, and for some reason he was really, really good at it.
Wow.
And he tried to show me, and I would just fall over on the ground over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think if, have you ever done any like calisthenics? Like there's a certain kind of squat that you can do where like you're bending your leg and then you're kicking out. And you basically drop down to...
Oh, that I know what you're talking about.
I think if you can do that, then maybe you can potentially get to this point where you're alternating legs.
There's a rhythm to it.
But I cannot do that.
No, right, fair.
It's really funny though. I can't remember now where I was reading it or even what the general kind of paper was on, but I remember reading something about a dance that somebody had seen in Connemara. And this just kind of hones in on the problems of writing about dance. Mm-hmm. They were kind of describing this dance in a way that made me envision this type of, you're on the ground and you're kicking your legs out kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And they called it, I think, like a bunny dance or something, or a rabbit dance, maybe. And what's interesting too is that like there's a similar tradition in Appalachia.
Oh, really?
As well of like animal dances where you're kind of imitating this animal in these movements. And another really, really amazing dance film. It's a documentary. It's called Talking Feet. It was I think it was filmed in the 80s, and it's all about different dancers and dance styles from Appalachia. Cool. It's really, really, really interesting. And there's actually a video clip of somebody dancing. I think he called it a possum dance. And it's him kind of like on all fours, but backwards. So like his belly is up to the sky and he's kind of like hopping around on his arms and legs in a weird kind of way. And apparently that looks like a possum. So yeah, it's, I think, what was
my question again? I don't remember.
The Russian dance.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
I think, Siobhan, I'll leave this podcast off at if that's all right with you. I'm going to let you plug yourself now.
Oh gosh, okay.
Well, I mean, like if you want to plug your website or Bonog's website or your socials or Bonog's, yeah. Bonog's socials or any event that you're doing coming up or anything like that, cool. Plug away.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, yeah, my personal email, or not email, Jesus, sorry. My personal website is SiobhanButler.com. And Bonog is BonogIrishDance.com. So both have my contact information on there. My Instagram is Siobhan Butler. Mm-hmm. There's probably a picture of my dog on there. And yeah, I think that's everything. I don't have anything coming up at the moment in Ireland anyway. I'm teaching in France this summer.
When is that?
And in the States.
Oh, it's in the summer.
Yeah. I'm teaching in France in July and August, 2 different events. And then I'm teaching in the States in June.
All right, good stuff.
So, yeah.
Groovy. No, it's been terrific talking to you, Siobhan. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming up.
Oh, not at all. Thanks for having us. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've learned an enormous amount about dance that I didn't know beforehand. You know what I mean? Cool. I'm sorry if I've been a bit more tired on this kind of thing. I've just been, I've traveled a lot yesterday.
Oh gosh,
I don't know what's wrong with me today.
No, you're great. You're great.
Well, I want to thank, pardon me. Well, I want to thank you, Siobhan, for the great conversation and for letting us come down to Manorhamilton. I want to thank Sessiongoth for driving us down here and participating in this
anytime
in this interview. I want to thank Fola for being a beautiful angel of a dog who's sleeping right now. She's a little angel. And I want to thank the listener for listening. Thanks for listening, and see you somewhere else in the Weird Ireland podcast.